Noah Harrow sat on the cold marble floor of the nursery, his small body folded inward like he was trying to vanish. His fingers were jammed behind his ears, not scratching, not rubbing, but pulling, as if something invisible was trapped inside his head and refused to let go. His face twisted in silent agony. He opened his mouth to cry, but no sound came. Only air slipped out, thin and useless. His chest heaved too fast, breath breaking into sharp little gasps, and his eyes darted wildly around the bright, expensive room, as though the pain might be hiding somewhere he could see. The toy piano in front of him lay untouched, its polished keys reflecting sunlight he couldn't feel. Noah slapped his palms over his ears and pressed hard, then dragged them away again. He shook his head violently, curls sticking to his damp forehead. Whatever it was, it hurt. It pressed. It felt heavy, like a door slammed shut deep inside him. A nanny cam blinked green from the corner of the ceiling. Seconds later, the nursery door flew open. Mara rushed in without hesitation, dropping to her knees so fast her shoes scraped the floor. She didn't shout for help. She didn't panic. She simply reached for Noah, gently but firmly guiding his hands away before he could hurt himself. "It's okay," she whispered, though she knew he couldn't hear her voice. Her hand spoke instead, "Safe. I'm here. Breathe." Noah thrashed once, then twice before collapsing into her arms like a child who had run out of strength. His fingers clenched her sleeve as if letting go might pull him back into the pain. Mara held him close, rocking slowly. As she did, she noticed something that made her stomach tighten, a faint redness circling the edges of his ears, not the redness of infection, the redness of pressure. Down the hall, hurried footsteps echoed. A doctor had been called, and Mara, staring at Noah's ears, felt a quiet certainty settle in her chest. This wasn't deafness. Something was being done to him. Dr. Kellen arrived with the calm efficiency of a man who had been summoned many times before. His shoes made no sound on the marble floor as he entered the nursery. White coat crisp, expression composed, almost bored. Behind him stood Noah's father, Mr. Harrow, tall and immaculately dressed, his presence filling the doorway like a shadow. "What happened?" the billionaire asked, his voice firm, controlled. Mara stood slowly, keeping Noah close to her chest. The boy's breathing had steadied, but his fingers still twitched near his ears, as though the urge to pull something out hadn't left him. "He was in pain," Mara said carefully. "He kept grabbing his ears." Dr. Kellen nodded, already pulling on gloves. "That's not uncommon," he said. "Children born deaf often experience sensory confusion. Frustration manifests physically." He knelt in front of Noah and switched on a small examination light. The sudden brightness made Noah stiffen. His eyes widened, and he turned his face into Mara's shoulder. "It's all right," Dr. Kellen said gently, though he didn't look at Mara when he spoke. "Just a quick check." He examined Noah's ears with practiced ease, peering inside each canal, humming softly to himself. He straightened after a moment, a reassuring smile settling onto his face. "No infection, no obstruction," he announced. "Everything looks normal." Mara frowned. Then why was he in so much pain? Dr. Kellen removed his gloves. "Psychosomatic response. His condition can make him hypersensitive. Stress, overstimulation, even changes in routine can trigger episodes like this." Mr. Harrow exhaled, visibly relieved. "So there's nothing new?" "No," the doctor replied smoothly. "Nothing to worry about." He reached into his medical bag and pulled out a familiar amber bottle. "Just make sure he continues his supplements as prescribed. They help regulate neurological activity." Mara's eyes dropped to the bottle in the doctor's hand. The label was turned outward. She had seen it before. Dr. Kellen handed it to Mr. Harrow, who passed it to a nearby housekeeper without a second glance. "Give him his dose later," Mr. Harrow said. "We don't want another incident." Noah shifted in Mara's arms, his small hand tightening against her sleeve. And for reasons she couldn't yet explain, a cold unease settled deep in her stomach as she watched that bottle leave the room. That night the mansion settled into its usual quiet. Too quiet, Mara thought. The kind of silence money bought. Thick carpets, padded walls, doors that closed without sound. A house designed so nothing unpleasant ever echoed. Noah lay in his bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. Mara sat beside him, pretending to read while watching him through the corner of her eye. Every few minutes his fingers twitched toward his ears, then fell back to the sheets like he had learned not to try anymore. She waited. When the house clock ticked past 9, a housekeeper appeared with the amber bottle and a small plastic spoon. Mara's stomach tightened. She watched as the liquid was poured. Thick, faintly cloudy. Noah's eyes followed the movement. He shook his head once. A small, almost desperate motion. He doesn't want it, Mara signed gently. The housekeeper hesitated. Doctor's orders, she whispered, glancing toward the hallway as if the walls could hear. Every night, Mara took the spoon herself. She crouched in front of Noah, signing slowly. This will help. Then sleep. Noah swallowed obediently. Within minutes, his eyelids drooped. His breathing slowed, not into natural sleep, but something heavier. Deeper. Mara stayed long after he drifted off. She leaned close, studying his ears again under the soft bedside lamp. The faint redness from earlier hadn't fully faded. She touched the skin gently. Noah didn't stir. In the quiet, Mara's mind began to work. The episodes always happened before the dose. The pain. The panic. The pulling. After the syrup, Noah didn't struggle. He dimmed. Mara stood and walked to the small trash bin near the sink. She pulled out the used spoon, sniffed it carefully. There was a sharp chemical undertone beneath the sweetness. Not vitamins. Her chest tightened. Mara had worked pediatric care years ago, long before she became just a nanny. She had seen children mislabeled, misdiagnosed, controlled for convenience. She returned to Noah's bedside and brushed a curl from his forehead. "What are they giving you?" she whispered. Noah slept on, deaf to the question. But for the first time since entering the Harrow mansion, Mara was certain of one thing. Noah's silence was not natural, and someone in this house needed it that way. The next morning, Mara woke before the sun. The mansion was at its most honest then. No voices, no footsteps, no performances. Just long corridors and locked doors. Noah sat at the breakfast table, swinging his legs gently. A bowl of fruit sat untouched in front of him. He stared at it without interest, his gaze unfocused. Mara poured him juice and watched closely as he lifted the glass. His hands were steady this morning. No pulling, no pressing at his ears. She waited. When the housekeeper arrived with the amber bottle, Mara intervened smoothly. "I'll give it to him today," she said with a polite smile. The woman hesitated, then nodded. "Of course." Mara carried the bottle to the kitchen. She measured the dose carefully, then poured half of it into the sink. The rest she mixed with juice and returned to Noah. She signed, "Drink." Noah obeyed. Minutes passed, then 10, then 20. Noah blinked. His eyes sharpened. He tilted his head suddenly, frowning. Not in pain, but in confusion. His fingers lifted slowly, hovering near his ears. Mara's breath caught. Noah tapped the table once. Then again, he stared at his own hand, startled, as if something had responded. Mara froze. She tapped the table too. Noah's eyes widened. A vibration, not sound, but something close, traveled through the wood. Noah gasped silently, mouth opening in astonishment rather than pain. His hands flew to his ears, not pulling this time, listening. Mara's heart pounded. She grabbed a napkin and tore it in half behind him. No reaction. She moved closer and snapped her fingers sharply near his head. Noah flinched, just slightly. Enough. Mara straightened, pulse racing. This wasn't psychosomatic. This wasn't congenital. The syrup wasn't helping Noah regulate. It was keeping him under. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Mara turned just as Mr. Harrow entered the dining room, eyes sharp, observant. Noah was smiling. A real smile. Mr. Harrow frowned. "Why hasn't he taken his full dose?" he asked. Mara met his gaze evenly. He seemed better today, she said. The silence that followed was not empty. It was dangerous. Mr. Harrow didn't raise his voice. That, Mara quickly learned, was worse. His gaze moved from his son's face to Mara's, slow and measuring, like he was pricing an object. "You are not authorized to alter my son's treatment," he said calmly. Mara kept her posture relaxed. "I didn't alter it," she replied. "I supervised it." Mr. Harrow's lips tightened. "Doctors supervise treatment, not nannies." Noah sensed the shift. His smile faded. He leaned subtly toward Mara, fingers curling into the fabric of her sleeve. Mr. Harrow noticed. His hand stilled. "Give us a moment," he said to Mara, nodding toward the door. Mara hesitated, then gently signed to Noah. "I'll be right outside." Noah shook his head, panic flashing across his face. He reached for her again, fingers shaking. Mr. Harrow placed his hand firmly on Noah's shoulder. "It's fine," he said. Mara stepped out. The door closed softly behind her. She stood in the hallway, staring at the smooth wood paneling, listening to nothing, yet feeling everything. A minute passed. Then two, finally, the door opened. Mr. Harrow emerged alone. "You are here to care for my son," he said quietly. "Not to question decisions made far above your position." Mara met his eyes. He felt better today. Mr. Harrow's jaw clenched. "You will follow instructions, or you will be replaced." That night, Mara noticed new cameras in the hallway. Small, discreet, pointed directly at Noah's room. She watched the housekeeper deliver the syrup again. This time, Mara didn't interfere. She watched Noah swallow it. Within minutes, his shoulders sagged. His eyes dulled. The little spark from that morning disappeared like it had never existed. Mara clenched her fists at her sides. Later, alone in the staff bathroom, she removed her phone and checked the photos she'd secretly taken of the bottle's label, the dosage, the prescription code. She saved them to a hidden folder. Then she did something else. She began keeping a record. Dates, times, symptoms. If this house wanted silence, Mara would give it the kind that screamed. The prescription code haunted Mara. She waited until Noah was asleep, drugged into that heavy, unnatural stillness, before pulling out her phone again. Sitting on the narrow staff bed, she typed the code into a secure medical database she still had access to from her former life. It took seconds. Her stomach dropped. The code wasn't for vitamins. It belonged to a neurological suppressant, rarely used, heavily regulated, and absolutely not approved for long-term use in children. One of its known side effects sat highlighted on the screen like an accusation: temporary auditory suppression. Mara's hands trembled. She scrolled further. The prescribing physician's name appeared in full. Dr. Kellen Morris. Her chest tightened. She cross-checked it with another file, then another. A pattern emerged quickly. Too quickly. Dr. Kellen had signed off on 3 similar cases in the past decade. All children. All from wealthy families. All labeled congenital complications. 2 of those children had been pulled from public records entirely. 1 had died. Mara locked her phone and pressed it against her chest, breathing slowly through the fear. This wasn't a mistake. It was a system. The next morning, she watched Dr. Kellen arrive again, summoned for a routine follow-up. He smiled when he saw Mara, the same polished expression as always. "You're very attentive," he said lightly. "Mr. Harrow appreciates loyalty." Mara returned the smile. "I care about Noah." Dr. Kellen's eyes flicked briefly to the cameras, then back to her. "Care can be dangerous if it leads to misunderstanding." As he turned away, something slipped from his coat pocket and landed near Mara's feet. A folded document. He didn't notice. Mara picked it up slowly. It wasn't a medical report. It was a non-disclosure agreement, unsigned. And Noah's name was printed at the top. Mara felt the walls of the mansion close in. They weren't just hiding the truth. They were preparing for it to come out. Mara didn't sleep. She lay on her narrow bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment she had spent with Noah since arriving at the Harrow mansion. The way his hands reached for his ears. The way his body reacted before the syrup, not after. The way his eyes had lit up that morning when the dose was reduced. They had taken something from him, and they were still taking it. At dawn, Mara began preparing. She copied every file she could access. Prescription records, dosage schedules, Dr. Kellen's past cases, onto an encrypted drive small enough to fit inside a button pouch sewn into her coat. She backed everything up twice. Then she did something riskier. She swapped the amber bottle. The replacement looked identical down to the faded label. Inside was a harmless mixture, sweet, thick, and safe. She had prepared it carefully, testing the color and consistency under different lights. At breakfast, Noah drank it without hesitation. Mara watched. 10 minutes passed. Noah blinked, his head tilted slightly to the side like he was trying to understand a new sensation. His fingers lifted slowly and hovered near his ears. Then, he laughed. A soft, breathy sound escaped his throat, unshaped and startled, like a sound he hadn't meant to make. Mara froze. Noah froze too. They stared at each other, eyes wide. Tears welled in his eyes. Not pain this time, but confusion and wonder. He clapped his hands once, then again, fascinated by the faint vibration it made. Mara swallowed hard. This was proof. But proof alone wasn't enough. Footsteps approached. Mara turned just as Mr. Harrow entered the room. His gaze locked immediately on Noah, on the boy's bright eyes, his alert posture. Something dark flickered across his face. "What did you give him?" he asked quietly. Mara met his stare, heart pounding. "Breakfast," she said. The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. By afternoon, the mansion felt different. Not louder, not busier, just tighter. 2 additional guards appeared near the east wing. Noah's playtime was cut short. His lessons were canceled for rest. The doors that were usually left ajar now closed with soft, deliberate clicks. Mara noticed everything. She noticed the way staff avoided her eyes, the way conversations stopped when she entered a room, the way Mr. Harrow's assistant followed a step too close, pretending to check messages while watching her reflection in the glass. Most of all, she noticed Noah. Without the suppressant, he was awake in a way she hadn't seen before. He startled at vibrations, the closing of a door, footsteps on the stairs. He pressed his ear against the table once, curious, not afraid. But curiosity in this house was dangerous. That evening, Mara was summoned to Mr. Harrow's study. The room smelled of leather and cold air. Mr. Harrow stood by the window, back to her, city lights stretching endlessly below. "You are not here by accident," he said without turning. "Your background, your experience, I knew who I hired." Mara said nothing. "You think you're helping my son?" he continued. "But you don't understand the world he was born into, what he might hear, what he might repeat." He finally turned. "There are things in this house that must remain unheard." Mara felt a chill crawl up her spine. "And if I don't agree?" she asked. Mr. Harrow smiled thinly. "Then you will leave, quietly, tonight." When she returned to Noah's room, her heart sank. The amber bottle was back, full, and this time it sat on the nightstand, open. Noah stood beside the bed, shaking, fingers pressed to his ears again. Panic had returned to his eyes stronger than before. Mara rushed to him, pulling him close. Someone had given him the real dose, and whoever it was knew exactly what they were doing. Noah's body went rigid in Mara's arms. His fingers dug into the sides of his head, nails scraping skin as he shook violently. His mouth opened in a silent scream, eyes squeezed shut as if whatever was happening inside him was too much to bear. Mara's heart slammed against her ribs. "Noah, Noah, look at me," she whispered urgently, signing his name over and over. "Look at me. Stay with me." But he was slipping. The suppressant worked faster this time, stronger. His movements slowed, panic dissolving into something far worse, emptiness. His eyelids fluttered. His head lolled against her shoulder. "Help!" Mara shouted, forgetting for a moment that shouting was pointless in this house. Footsteps thundered down the hall anyway. Dr. Kellen burst in first, coat unbuttoned, expression irritated rather than alarmed. "He's reacting," Mara said, voice shaking. "You're hurting him." Dr. Kellen checked Noah's pulse with mechanical calm. "It's an adjustment period," he said. "Children resist change." "No," Mara snapped. "Children don't shut down like this." Mr. Harrow appeared behind the doctor, face stone cold. "Enough," he said. "Give him the stabilizer." Dr. Kellen hesitated, just for a fraction of a second, then reached into his bag. Mara moved before she could think. She pulled Noah tighter to her chest. "You will not touch him." The room went still. Mr. Harrow's eyes narrowed. "You're overstepping." "I'm protecting him," Mara said. Her voice was steady now, something hard settling into place inside her. "And I have proof." Dr. Kellen froze. Mr. Harrow laughed softly. "You have nothing." Mara met his gaze. "You're wrong." Noah stirred weakly in her arms, a faint sound escaping his throat, not a cry but something close. Something trying to exist. And in that fragile moment, Mara knew. There would be no quiet exit. Only exposure. The dinner was planned long before the crisis. Investors, partners, and close associates filled the long dining table, crystal glasses catching the light, quiet laughter floating between carefully chosen words. It was the kind of gathering designed to reassure, to show strength, stability, control. Noah sat at the far end of the table beside Mara. He looked small among the polished silver and towering adults. His hands rested in his lap, fingers clenched tight. The real syrup had worn off enough to leave him alert, but fragile like glass stretched too thin. Mara watched him closely. Across the table, Mr. Harrow spoke smoothly about expansion plans and projected profits. Dr. Kellen sat nearby, nodding along, his glass untouched. Then Noah stiffened. His shoulders rose, his breathing quickened, his fingers crept upward, hovering near his ears. Mara felt it before she saw it. The shift. Noah gagged suddenly, eyes wide, body jerking forward. A glass tipped and shattered on the floor. Conversations died mid-sentence. Mara was on her feet instantly, pulling Noah into her arms as his body shook. His mouth opened in a silent plea. Panic flooded his face. "What's happening?" someone whispered. Mr. Harrow stood. "He's fine, just a—" "No," Mara said clearly. Her voice cut through the room. She reached into her pocket and pulled out something, a small medical vial. Then another thing, a folded document sealed in plastic. She placed them gently on the table. The sound they made, soft, ordinary, was enough. Everyone went quiet. "This is not a vitamin," Mara said calmly. "It's a neurological suppressant, and this," she tapped the document, "is the dosage log, signed, approved, repeated." Dr. Kellen went pale. Mr. Harrow didn't speak. Noah clutched Mara's sleeve, shaking but listening, feeling, present. Mara looked around the table. "Your silence helped this happen." The room held its breath. And for the first time in Noah's life, the truth was louder than the lies. The silence didn't break all at once. It fractured, chairs scraped back, voices rose in confused bursts. Someone demanded an explanation. Another reached for their phone. The investor's polished calm cracked into something raw and uncertain. Mr. Harrow's hand came down hard on the table. "This is a misunderstanding," he said sharply. "A gross violation of privacy by an employee who has overstepped her role." Dr. Kellen stood abruptly. "I can explain." "Sit down," Mara said. The command surprised even her. She lifted her phone and tapped the screen. "Because this isn't the only record." She turned the screen outward. Prescription codes, dates, cross-referenced cases. A low murmur spread through the room. "You can't release that," Dr. Kellen hissed. "Those files are protected." "They're criminal," Mara replied. Noah whimpered softly. The sound was small, but it existed. Several heads turned sharply toward him. Mr. Harrow froze. Noah pressed his ear against Mara's chest, eyes wide. He wasn't panicking now. He was listening. "This ends now," Mr. Harrow said quietly. Security, 2 guards moved forward. Mara didn't step back. "I've already sent copies," she said, "to a lawyer and a journalist." That stopped them. Mr. Harrow's composure finally cracked. "You think you've won?" "No," Mara said. "I think Noah has a chance." Dr. Kellen's hands shook. "You don't understand what you're exposing." Mara met his eyes. "I understand exactly." Noah lifted his head suddenly. He frowned. Then he smiled, slow, uncertain, and let out a sound that was barely there. But it was real, and it terrified them all. By morning, the mansion felt hostile. The warmth was gone. Staff avoided Mara completely. Noah's room was stripped of anything unnecessary. No toys, no books, no music box that had never been turned on anyway. It felt less like a bedroom and more like a holding room. Legal letters arrived before breakfast. Mara watched Mr. Harrow's assistant deliver them, face pale. Threats, injunctions, accusations of theft, breach of contract, endangerment. Mara ignored them. Her focus stayed on Noah. Without the suppressant, his senses woke unevenly. He startled easily, flinching at vibrations, pressing his ears not in pain but in confusion. Some sounds came through as pressure, others as faint distortions. Mara guided him gently, teaching him to ground himself. She hummed softly while holding him. Noah stiffened, then relaxed. The vibration of her voice, low, steady, seemed to calm him. He pressed closer, eyes closing, breathing syncing with hers. Dr. Kellen was removed from the case by noon. By evening, word leaked. A call came from a journalist. Then another. Then another. Mr. Harrow stopped pretending. "You will leave this house," he said flatly. With nothing, Mara signed calmly to Noah. "We're going somewhere safe." Noah looked at her, confusion flickering, then trust. They were stopped at the door. Security blocked the exit. Mr. Harrow stood behind them, face tight with fury and fear. "You don't take what belongs to me," he said. Mara turned slowly. "He's not property," she said. For the first time, Noah made a sound on purpose. A small, shaky breath. And in that breath was defiance. The standoff at the door didn't last long. Sirens cut through the night. Faint at first, then unmistakable. Red and blue lights flashed against the tall windows, washing the white walls in color they had never known. Mr. Harrow turned sharply. "What did you do?" Mara didn't answer. 2 uniformed officers entered, followed by a woman in a dark suit holding a leather folder. She moved with purpose, her eyes locking immediately on Noah. "I'm with Child Protective Services," she said. "We have an emergency court order." Mr. Harrow laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. "This is absurd." The woman opened the folder. "Medical endangerment. Unlawful administration of controlled substances. Obstruction." Dr. Kellen's name was listed. So was Mr. Harrow's. The billionaire's face drained of color. Mara knelt in front of Noah, signing quickly but gently. "We're leaving. You're safe." Noah stared at the officers, the lights, the unfamiliar movement. His hands shook, but he didn't reach for his ears. Instead, he reached for Mara. She took his hand. As they stepped outside, the cold night air wrapped around them. Noah stopped suddenly, eyes wide. He tilted his head. A sound. Thin. Distant. Real. A siren. Noah gasped, clutching Mara's coat, overwhelmed but awake. Tears streamed down his face. Not from pain, but from too much new. Mara held him tightly. "It's okay," she whispered, voice steady, grounding. Behind them, the mansion loomed, silent, watching. Ahead of them, an ambulance door stood open. For the first time in his life, Noah was leaving silence behind. The hospital room was small, plain, and perfect. No marble floors, no cameras hidden in corners. Just white walls, soft lights, and the steady, honest beeping of a heart monitor. Noah sat on the bed, legs dangling, eyes moving constantly. Every sound startled him. The rustle of sheets, the click of a pen, the distant murmur of voices in the hallway. Mara stayed close, grounding him with touch and calm movements. The doctor spoke carefully, slowly. "The damage appears temporary," one said. "The suppressant delayed auditory development but didn't destroy it." Mara closed her eyes in relief. Therapy began immediately. They started small. Vibrations, low tones, gentle humming. Mara was always there, her voice the anchor Noah returned to when the world grew too loud. One afternoon as sunlight spilled across the bed, Mara hummed again. Soft, steady. Noah froze. His eyes filled with tears. He placed a hand on her throat, feeling the vibration. Then he moved his hand to his own chest. His mouth opened. Ah. The sound was weak, uncertain, but it existed. Mara laughed through her tears. The therapist froze. Noah tried again. It wasn't a word, but it was a beginning. That night Noah slept without medication. Real sleep. Peaceful. Mara sat beside him, listening to his breathing, something she never took for granted again. Outside the room, phones rang non-stop. The Harrow name was unraveling fast. Inside, something fragile and precious was being rebuilt, sound by sound. The news broke quietly at first. A single article, carefully sourced, carefully worded. No drama, just facts laid bare like bones. A billionaire heir, a controlled substance, a trusted physician, a pattern too deliberate to ignore. By noon, it was everywhere. Screens in the hospital lounge replayed the headline on mute. Mara watched the crawl of words slide across the bottom of the screen, while Noah sat beside her, stacking plastic blocks with slow concentration. He flinched when a cart rolled past the door, then steadied himself, breathing the way she had taught him. Across the city, the Harrow empire began to crack. Board members resigned. Investors pulled out. Lawyers issued statements that said nothing while meaning everything. Dr. Kellen was suspended, then detained for questioning before sunset. Mr. Harrow released a statement just before evening. It spoke of betrayal, of misinformation, of a deeply personal family matter. Noah's name was never mentioned. Mara turned off the television. That night, she wheeled Noah onto the hospital balcony. The city spread out below them, alive with motion and sound. Cars hissed along the road. Somewhere, music drifted upward, faint, imperfect, real. Noah leaned forward, eyes wide. He closed them, listened. Tears slid silently down his cheeks. Mara knelt beside him. "You don't have to understand it all," she said softly. "Just take it one sound at a time." Noah looked at her, his brow furrowed with effort. Then slowly, carefully, he shaped his mouth. Ma-ra. The word was broken, breath heavy, barely there, but it landed. Mara froze. Then she pulled him into her arms, holding him as the city hummed around them. Below, a powerful name was falling apart. Above it all, a small boy was learning how to speak his first truth. The courtroom smelled like old paper and cold air. Noah sat beside Mara on a wooden bench, his feet not quite touching the floor. He wore headphones, not for sound but for comfort. They helped soften the world, helped him choose what to let in. Mr. Harrow sat stiffly with his legal team. He didn't look at Noah. Doctors testified first, then specialists. Charts were shown, dosages read aloud. The words negligence and endangerment echoed through the room like distant thunder. Mara spoke last. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't dramatize. She simply told the truth, what she saw, what she changed, what Noah became when the drug was removed. When asked why she stayed, her answer was simple. Because he needed someone who would listen. The judge looked at Noah. "Do you understand where you are?" she asked gently. Noah nodded. "Do you know who this woman is?" She gestured to Mara. Noah swallowed, then spoke slowly, carefully, shaping each sound with effort. "Safe," he said. The word landed heavily in the room. The ruling came quickly. Temporary custody to the state. Permanent separation from Mr. Harrow pending trial. Noah didn't react at first. Then he leaned into Mara's side, pressing his ear against her shoulder, grounding himself in a sound he trusted. Outside, reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. Mara shielded Noah with her body as they passed. That night, in the quiet of a small temporary apartment, Mara lay awake on the couch while Noah slept nearby. The future felt fragile, uncertain, unprotected, but it was real. And for the first time, the choice belonged to Noah. 6 months changed everything. Noah grew taller, stronger. His hair curled differently now, softer at the edges, as if his body had finally decided it was safe to grow. Therapy became routine, 3 times a week, patient and slow. Sounds no longer crashed into him. They arrived one by one, asking permission. Mara learned his limits. Some days Noah loved noise, the splash of water in the sink, the low hum of traffic outside their apartment window, the soft music played just above a whisper. Other days, he needed quiet so complete it felt sacred. They honored both. On a rainy afternoon, Noah sat cross-legged on the living room floor, arranging cards with pictures and words. Mara watched from the kitchen, smiling as he whispered sounds under his breath, testing them like fragile glass. Then he stopped, his head tilted. "Mara?" he asked. She turned. "Yes? Do you hear that?" Her smile faded. She listened. Nothing. No rain, no footsteps, no voices. Noah's fingers tightened against the floor. "It's like singing," he said slowly, "but far." Mara's chest tightened. That night Noah couldn't sleep. He pressed his ear against the wall, then the floor, then Mara's chest. The sound came and went, never loud, never clear. At therapy, tests showed nothing unusual. At home, the sound returned, always at night, always soft, always pulling Noah's attention away from the present. Mara began to wonder if silence, once broken, could ever truly be empty again. One evening, as Noah drifted to sleep, he whispered, "It knows my name." Mara stiffened. "What does?" she asked gently. Noah's eyes stayed closed. "The quiet," he said. Mara held him tighter, staring into the dark, a familiar certainty settling back into her bones. Some things had been taken from Noah, some things had been given back, and some things, once unsealed, were still listening. Mara didn't dismiss the sound. That was the mistake everyone else had made, calling Noah's experiences confusion, trauma, echoes of a damaged past. Mara had learned better. Silence had been used as a weapon against him once. She refused to let it be used again. She began with records. Late at night after Noah slept, she searched through sealed court files and leaked documents from the Harrow case. Materials most people ignored once the scandal lost its shine. One detail surfaced again and again: the music room, a sealed wing of the old mansion. Soundproofed, windowless, removed from renovation plans decades earlier. The reason given: acoustic experimentation. Mara's stomach tightened. She requested access through legal channels. It took weeks. Resistance was heavy, but the house was no longer untouchable. The day she returned to the mansion, it felt smaller, emptier, stripped of power. The music room door was thick steel, reinforced from the inside. When it finally opened, the air that escaped was stale and humming. Not loudly, barely at all. Inside were machines, old ones, experimental auditory devices, frequency modulators, resonance chambers, early neural stimulation tech, dangerous, unregulated. At the center sat a child-sized chair. Mara staggered back. The truth came together with brutal clarity. Noah hadn't been born deaf. He had been trained into silence. The suppressant hadn't caused the condition. It had maintained it, keeping his hearing suppressed after early exposure to frequencies no child should endure. The sound Noah heard now wasn't imaginary. It was memory. That night, when Noah asked, "Did they make the quiet?" Mara answered honestly, "Yes." Noah was silent for a long time. Then he said softly, clearly, "Then it's over now." Mara hoped he was right. But as the lights flickered in their apartment and a low hum stirred the air, she realized some experiments never truly ended. They only waited to be heard. The hum returned on a quiet evening, No rain, no traffic, no explanation. Noah sat on the couch, book open in his lap when he stiffened. His fingers curled slowly, not in panic this time, but in recognition. "It's back," he said. Mara set the book aside and knelt in front of him. "Where do you feel it?" He touched his chest. "Here. And here." He brushed his ears lightly, careful, no longer trying to tear something away. Mara breathed in slowly. "You don't have to run from it?" Noah nodded. They sat together in the dim room as the hum grew slightly stronger. Still soft, still distant. It wasn't a sound meant to frighten anymore. It was a question. Mara remembered the chair in the music room, the machines, the intention behind them. "You were never meant to be silent," she said. "They tried to control what you could hear. But now you choose." Noah closed his eyes. He listened. The hum wavered, shifted, changed pitch, uncertain, like it had lost its grip. Noah's breathing steadied. "I hear me," he said quietly. The sound faded. Not abruptly. Gently, as if it had been acknowledged and released. Mara pulled him into her arms, heart pounding. "You did it." Noah smiled, tired but peaceful. "It's quiet now," he said. "The good kind." That night, he slept deeply, without listening for echoes. In the morning, sunlight filled the apartment. Noah laughed when a bird cried out from the window, the sound sharp and bright. Life moved forward. But some things leave marks. Mara knew that healing wasn't erasing the past. It was learning to live louder than it. And Noah was ready. 1 year later, Noah stood on a small wooden stage. The room was modest, a community center with folding chairs and warm yellow lights, but it was full. Teachers, therapists, children like Noah, sitting with parents who held their hands a little too tightly. Mara sat in the front row. Noah adjusted the microphone carefully. He didn't rush. He never rushed anymore. When he spoke, his voice was soft but steady. "My name is Noah," he said. "I couldn't hear before, but I can now." The room held its breath. "I used to think silence was empty," he continued, choosing each word with care. "But silence can be full of things people don't want you to hear." Mara felt her throat tighten. Noah looked out at the audience, then down at his hands. He smiled slightly. "Now I know something else. Sound isn't just noise, it's choice." He stepped back. The microphone hummed faintly. Then Noah did something no one expected. He began to hum. Not the old tune from the past, not the one tied to pain or memory. This was new, simple, uneven, entirely his. The sound wobbled, then steadied, filling the room with something fragile and brave. People cried quietly. Mara did not look away. When Noah finished, the applause was gentle, respectful. He didn't flinch. He didn't cover his ears. He bowed, awkwardly, proudly, and ran straight into Mara's arms. That night, as they walked home under a sky alive with city sounds, Noah squeezed her hand. "I like hearing," he said. Mara smiled. "I like listening." Behind them, the world continued, loud, imperfect, real. And for the first time, Noah wasn't afraid of any of it, because the sound he trusted most was his own.